Hello, I'm Billy. Welcome to episode 4 of Show and Tell, a vintage-inspired knitting podcast. Today I wanted to, first of all, share with you some vintage scissors. These have been in my family since the 1950s. They're one of the earliest recollections I have of my mother. These scissors were always in her kitchen, and now they're always in my kitchen. The reason I'm showing them to you is because I have a letter that just arrived in the mail today from another podcaster who was kind enough to send me something. And it's my first thing that I've gotten as a gift. She doesn't even know yet that I'm a podcaster, and she doesn't even know that I'm going to be calling her out. But I wanted to open this in front of everyone. And before I show you what it is, I wanted to share her YouTube page so that you'll be able to find her. So give me a second, and her name is Leslie Friend, and she was talking about a store where she works that has stitch markers. Well, they don't use them as stitch markers. They receive their garments that they sell with these very fine, the light bulb shaped stitch markers. And she said if anybody wanted them, that they should let her know. And she was kind enough to send me a batch of them. After I show you what she just sent me, and so sweet, a little envelope and her little tape on it, I'm going to show you the ones that I've been using prior to this. So let's see what we have here. Oh, perfect. She must have known I'm the queen of black and white, because she sent me some black ones and some silver ones. And thank you, Leslie. These will be put to good use now that I knit on fine needles and fine gauge. Happy knitting, isn't that sweet? So I wanted to show you some of the tools that I use. This is my little tool kit. These are the stitch markers that I've been using, these plastic ones. My husband calls them projectiles because I do a lot of knitting while sitting up in bed, and sometimes these fall out in between stitches, and he'll flip over the sheets and one of these things will come flying at him. So those are in here. I also have in here the key to my interchangeable needles. Can you see this little silver key? I keep it on this so that I can find it easily, but also sometimes this is handy for tightening. Like I can grip, this is a little sponge thing. I can grip the needle while I'm twisting it on. I also have some needles, and I keep thread, so those two I can find. I have one of these little tips for putting on the end of a needle so stitches don't slide off. I tend not to use it, but I have it in case. I mentioned in an earlier podcast that because I live on the 9th floor of an apartment building, I don't do gardening. So I do bring home an occasional orchid from Trader Joe's, and they always have these little clips holding the stem to a rod. And after 6 months, mine are dead. So I have a collection of these, which sometimes if I'm assembling a garment, it's nice to clip them together instead of basting it. And then I have a teeny tiny pair of scissors, also with a little yarn on it so that I can find that in my mix. These are pretty sharp, and because they're in this tin, they seem to go through security at the airport without any problem. They fit right in here, and if I was carrying Altoids, they would never question anything. So I also have these, which twist onto the end of the cord of interchangeable needles when you remove the needle. And what else do I have? I think those are the major things, but it all fits right in this nice little compact case, and it's easy to take with me everywhere. I don't have a lot of other, I don't have any other things for holding this kind of stuff, so that's that. I had also mentioned in a prior episode that my apartment isn't large, so I try and find things that are very compact, very small. So my needles are in here. My ChiaoGoos, love the black and white. Let me open this and show you in case you're not familiar with them. There are two sizes of cords, one for the smaller size needles. There are two sizes, but two thicknesses. There are 3 different lengths in each size, so really you have 6 cords altogether, and a great little gidgee that attaches one small cord to another small cord, so you can actually make it even longer. So they're the cords. One size cord is for the small needles, which go from size 2 US or 2.75 millimeter up to size 8 US or 5 millimeter. I also keep a vintage, what else, a crochet hook in here. I don't have a lot of crochet hooks. I don't usually crochet. Once in a while with my knitting, picking up a drop stitch or something, it's a good thing to have. And I think I might only have one more crochet hook. This seems to be a very basic, usable size for me. It's called a 00, and it looks like it's by Boy Company, made in the USA once upon a time. And then the other size needles are US 9 or 5.5 millimeter up to US 15, which is 10 millimeter. $4 or $5. Unfortunately, it's made in China. Very compact, very practical thing to have. A scale, digital scale. And you can measure in grams or in ounces, whichever way you want to work. Notice how compact. Love it. I showed this in my last episode when I was showcasing my Aunt Matilda's sequin dress that I still don't know the gauge, but it could be 11 or 12 stitches to the inch. So you're talking about like 10 centimeters or 4 inches. You got about 44 plus stitches. It's off the charts. This is a nice little handy tool by Ann Budd Knits called the Handy Gauge Ruler. And it's such a clever thing. It's got in black or in white, so if you're using a dark yarn, the white will stand out. If you're using a light yarn, the black will stand out. The top one indicates 4 stitches per inch. So you just line those up with your stitches and it'll give you your gauge. The only problem with my Aunt Matilda's dress was the smallest gauge here was 9 stitches to the inch. She was a finer gauge than even that, and this is pretty tiny. So that takes up no room. I also have one of these objects that takes up no space in my apartment for measuring needle sizes. I don't generally use this for gauge. I know some people do, but those needles, it's hard to read what the size is. They do come with their own little cardboard one of these, but I purchased this before I purchased those needles. And my other just storage item is this case that hangs. It's really a jewelry roll or a toiletry roll for travel, but I have some of my knitting accessories in here. I have waste yarn, I have fixed circulars, I have a stitch holder, I have another set of interchangeable needles in here, wooden ones. And these are, at this point, they're vintage needles from when I had done my second round of knitting, which is a quarter of a century ago. So I have a bunch of Susan Bates Quicksilver. And I also have, I'll pull them out to show you, I also have old needles that they called ivories, although they're not, certainly not made of ivory. They just look like they would be ivory, but they're plastic. They're great. I don't use these anymore, but they were great because they don't make a lot of noise when you're knitting. Okay. The other thing, I know people love that whole acquisition thing, and I told you before, I don't do stash, but this arrived today, and I thought I would treat my viewers to a grand opening. So here we go with my vintage scissors. Snip this open. On screen along with you. And I'm going to show you the pattern that I'm intending to make with it. So this yarn is from Lovecrafts, and I happen to love Lovecrafts because they send these beautiful bags. I'll show you in a second. This nice little mesh bag. Also, something that I love about them is it's really easy to return. They send you a return label if you have too much yarn. So let me take this out of the bag. Some of these bags are big enough for the projects that I do, and you can see through them, so that's great. Okay, this is Super Kid Mohair by Lana Glossa, and it's like a violet color, kind of like a periwinkle blue, leaning towards lavender. And I'm going to hold that double with these Paintbox Cotton. Now, why did I choose Paintbox Cotton? I had heard on another podcast people raving about, I think it was a Rowan yarn that's a cotton, and I looked at it and I thought, well, that's nice, but I wonder if there's a less expensive alternative. So I don't know if everybody knows about a website called Yarnsub, Y-A-R-N-S-U-B, yarnsub.com. I probably should insert here a picture of the website. You type in, actually, you know what? Since I'm online, let me go there with you. Hold on a second. Okay, so it says yarn substitution made easy. You type in the name of the yarn. They're giving Cascade 220 as an example, but just for the hell of it, since everybody's using mohair, let's put in this silk hair. Silkhair. Did you mean Gomatolo? No, it doesn't say that. Silkhair Luso? No. Lana Grossa Silk Hair? That seems to be the one, so I'm going to go with this. I think that that's this. Lace Suede, Brushed Boucle, Fuzzy Mohair, 70%, 30% silk. This is that yarn, and look, it even tells you right here that it's from Lovecrafts. So that's why I know you probably have the right yarn. It tells you what the gauge is, it tells you the yardage, etc., etc. And then if you scroll down, let me see if I can find that. The sun is in my eyes. It will give you other yarns that you can substitute. So the first one up, Madelinetosh Impression, they're telling you they evaluate that as a 99% match. Excellent match, they call it. The texture is the same. They're both lace weight. Fiber content matches exactly. In other words, 70-30. Tells you that you'll need half a ball of Madelinetosh to equal one ball of this. Now, if you don't have access to that brand, you can keep scrolling down, and it tells you Hedgehog Fibers. Kids Silk Lace, also 99% excellent match. And it keeps going. Oh, look, Willow and Lark has a color that's very similar. But as you scroll down, I'll go further down, then you start to get things that are not 99%. All of these are 99% match. Wow. Who knew? Let me go way down. Now we're into 96%, 95%. At 95%, they're already saying this is just a good match. The fiber content is similar. It contains 71% mohair, 14% silk, and it's got some other things in it, metallic and nylon, which is why it's not a perfect match for this. So I thought that was something interesting to share with you. That's how I arrived at Paintbox. For me, it's often about color. Now, this is the first I'm seeing these together. I think I'm going to like this. I really think I will. In fact, while we're here together, I may as well open this and out of the bag. I'm going to take a strand of each and let's twist them together. I don't have a lot of experience yet with combining mohair with other yarns, but it seems like that's a way to kind of get an idea of how it's going to look. I think it's going to be nice. We'll see. The pattern, that's the other thing I wanted to share with you. So give me a moment and I will get that up for you to look at. Okay, so I wanted to show you the pattern that I'm going to be using. And I hope that the people who are affected by the new Ravelry look are okay with this. I'll try not to do anything too flashy. So this is Cashmere Merino Pullover by Yoshiko Hyodo. It sounds like a very lovely Japanese name. And although it's not vintage, clearly, I believe it's vintage inspired enough that I could see a beautiful strand of pearls or 2 or 3 over this. And I've really been looking for something for summer. I don't have a lot of summer weight knits, so the cotton should be wonderful for this. I also envision a lovely little hat, a straw hat maybe, or a light wool felted hat. I have some things in mind that'll go beautiful with this color yarn. And for me, the most exciting thing is that it's on a size 7 needle. Yes, I have been knitting for so many months on 2s and 3s, and it'll just be delightful to have something that'll knit up fast. Boy, I can't wait to get started. I still have a few things I'm finishing up. I have so many projects that I started before the lockdown and things that I began working on during lockdown. I have 3 things in particular that I don't really want to show you until they're finished. I don't think that's as much fun as just being able to show this is it, finished, beautiful. So yeah, there's a red and blue sweater, there's a magenta coat, and there's the antique jacket I showed you in episode 2 that just need to assemble. But I'll be very, very excited to cast something on. Oh, yes, it's what we live for. Okay, I think that about wraps it up for episode 4, and I hope you're all enjoying the beautiful weather. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Manhattan. You can see the sun is bright and shining, illuminating my room. I'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget, subscribe down below. Send me love notes, send me comments. I will read every single one of them, and I'll try and respond to everyone. Thank you. Bye.